Tonight, as our opening track, 1 in 10, which got to number 7 in 1981, may have given away, we are talking to one of the world's most successful reggae bands. Over 100 million records sold across 45 years. They've had 39 top 40 hits, including 3 number ones. Like all bands with sustained longevity, they've had their fair share of ups and downs and turbulence and splits in the camp. Like when the original lead singer, Ali Campbell, left the band in 2008. His brother Duncan stepped up to the mic to replace him for over 12 years until he was forced to retire due to ill health a couple of years ago. But as they celebrate their 45th anniversary this year, they've proven themselves pretty much unstoppable. A new lead singer was recruited in the shape of young Matt Doyle, who I'm delighted to say is here for a great conversation, along with founding member and OG Robin Campbell. We be delighted that UB40 are here.
Hello, Jackie Brambles.
Hello, Robin Campbell. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. I wish I had your energy, though, guys. You're on the road so much. Just completed a huge US tour, right?
Yeah.
You're playing at festivals across the UK and Europe too this summer, including Rewind South this weekend, of course. The following week, though, you have your own massive homecoming gig in Birmingham, primarily because this is a very, very special year for you guys, right?
Yeah. This year is our, believe it or not, 45th year. So we'll be celebrating with a new album, UB45. So it never stops for us.
It's a glaringly obvious but still delightful title for the new album, UB45. And I know it's going to be a combo of the classic hits re-recorded with Matt on lead vocals, together with totally new tracks that you've written. And I'm curious to know, with such a large band that UB40 is, what is that songwriting process like for you?
Oh, it's always been the same. It's the band of musicians make the music, and then one or two people will come in with a set of lyrics, and then we'll marry the two together. You know, with we usually have half a dozen, maybe even more. If we're working on an album, we can do as many as 20 or 30 backing tracks, and then the guys will come in. The usual suspects who write the lyrics will come in with sets of lyrics, and we'll fit them to existing tunes. That's a very long-winded and slow process that we've always done it by. That's because none of us read and write music. You know, we do everything by jamming together.
Right, yeah.
But now we also have young Matt Doyle, who is quite a prolific writer himself.
Well, I know you're keeping the new material under your hat until the album's released, so let's have a listen to one of those re-recorded classics right now, featuring Matt Doyle on lead vocals. This is Red Red Wine.
Red, red wine.
Red Red Wine, re-recorded with Matt Doyle on the lead vocals. Matt, let's get into the mechanics of a young gun like yourself, who's doing well in his own band anyway, making that decision to join the legendary UB40 as their lead singer, who inevitably is always the front man in any band. It's quite an undertaking, isn't it, for somebody new to come along to work with a group of musicians who have known each other literally pretty much all their lives. What was that process really like? I'm sure, obviously it's working. Of course it's working. You know, it's all going along swimmingly. But was it a bit daunting at first for you?
Yeah, no, to be honest,
Just a little bit.
Terrifying. You know, walking into a band of people that have known each other, you know, like you said, 60 years or they've been in the band for 45 years nearly together. It can be quite, daunting. But after getting to know the guys on tour, when they took my old band Kyoko out on tour, we just got to know each other really well, all of us. It's felt very natural, you know. I feel like I'm fitting in very nicely.
So in the first instance, for people who aren't familiar, Robin, with the story, Matt's band were just came out as a support band for UB40. It wasn't sort of an audition process that you first met Matt. You just sort of met him quite organically.
Yeah, well, literally exactly that. Kyoko were a band that we met in Birmingham, and we got chatting to them. We liked them. We liked their music. They reminded us of ourselves as youngsters. they're very similar, you know. So we took them on the road, and I think over a couple of years prior to COVID, we probably did 40 odd dates with them around the UK and Europe. So yeah, we knew them well, and I'd worked in the studio with Matt because he was Kyoko did a collaboration track with us on our collaboration album, Bigger Bag of Rhythm, and when we were working on that track, I was in the studio with him doing his vocals, and I just thought, this lad can sing, you know.
Yeah.
I like the cut of his chin.
So, Matt, were you? You can only say yes to this, really, with Robin here. But were you a UB40 fan?
Raving.
Growing up.
Yeah, no, I was. I always say, I always tell the story of, you know, being in the back of my parents' car singing along to UB40 songs. I think my earliest memory of actually learning the words, saying, no, play it again, was Come Back, Darling. It must have been Come Back, Darling.
Come back, darling. Give me another try.
Come Back, Darling got to number 10 in 1998. That's the track that got Matt Doyle hooked on UB40 as a kid, who had no idea back then that he would one day be their lead singer. It's like a rock and roll reggae fairy tale. And we will be back with more from Robin and Matt of UB40 next. Welcome back to the evening show with Jackie Brambles, where it's just you, me and UB40 enjoying a great conversation. Now, not all of them. There's no studio big enough to accommodate the whole lot. But we do have founding member Robin Campbell, along with the new kid on the block, Matt Doyle, their permanent new lead singer. And what I think is fantastic is the seamless blending of generations that you've done, bringing Matt into the fold to take over lead vocals. I mean, Queen, I guess, have done something similar, haven't they, with Adam Lambert? But it's pretty rare. So what impact has that had on the original band, Robin?
I think it's reinvigorated us, as it always does, having new members come in anyway, you know, because they've always got enthusiasm and they always contribute. You know, if you've got good people, then it's always good for the band. It's always an injection of not just youth, but enthusiasm as well, you know, and very definitely that's what Matt has done for us. He's re-infused and reinvigorated the band.
And if I was to go back to your childhood, Robin, and what you were listening to in the back of the family car, would I be right in saying your family were heavily into folk music, right?
My dad and his sister. Everyone assumes that his sister was his wife and therefore my mother. But yeah, she was in my father's group with him.
Right.
Lorna, that was, yeah. I mean, from the very earliest age, I was sat on the floor listening to my parents, my father and his group playing together, rehearsing, you know. So I've been surrounded by music since I was a toddler. Do
you have a same question to you? Sort of earliest memory of something that they were playing, that they were singing constantly. The sort of
my youth, was really very influential in all kinds of music, from the Beatles to Tamla Motown to ska. Before reggae existed, you know, I was listening to all sorts of music.
Okay, so let's take them one at a time then. So Beatles-wise, what if I had to, you know, forced you to pick a track that you remember as a youngster?
Oh, Love Me Do, probably. It's just when I was young, that was one of the songs that I loved the Beatles as a kid. I just thought they were brilliant. You know, it was almost a musical revolution when the Beatles happened. You know, it changed everything. It was, before that, it was very kind of middle of the road and very staid and very 50s. Whereas once the Beatles came on board, English pop changed, you know.
Love, love me do. Love, love me do.
And then, as you say, then that sort of the Motown influence coming in as well.
Oh yeah, well, Motown. Smokey Robinson was the man, wasn't he? He was brilliant. Tracks of My Tears, Tears of a Clown. You know, those tunes were just brilliant. And he was writing and producing for all the other artists at Tamla as well. So he was a genius.
So when you guys, obviously it was ska and reggae kind of was bringing you guys in when you were younger. Who would it be you were looking up to as sort of, you know, heroes in that genre when you had decided that you were going to have a band and you were going to try and record?
Well, obviously the big hero was Marley, but before Marley existed as a superstar around the world, we were listening to the very early reggae, Rocksteady, and people like Jimmy Cliff, Ken Booth, Desmond Dekker. Those were the people having hits, you know, before reggae became a world music. The UK had quite a number of Jamaican immigrants and got to hear Jamaican pop music. So yeah, Jimmy Cliff was probably the first big one, and then Ken Booth and Desmond Dekker, I would say.
Number 6 in 1969, Wonderful World, Beautiful People by Jimmy Cliff, influencing a young teenage Robin Campbell and his mates. And then, of course, just a few years later, as you said previously, Robin, another massive influence came along in the shape of Bob Marley, influencing a very young UB40, of course, in the mid-70s when he was first breaking through. He sadly wasn't here for very long. He died so young from cancer. But the impact he made, breaking reggae through to mainstream audiences as he did, it was just incredible, wasn't it?
Oh, well, there's nobody above him, is there? He is the man who put reggae on the map, really, you know. And it was a new kind of reggae because he'd adopted the Rasta faith, and it became a much more political, much more conscious lyric, you know. It was, it was a different kind of reggae. The reggae that I was first listening to in the 60s was Jamaican pop music, you know, and very often covers of English and American pop records. But Marley was writing his own songs, and he felt he had something to say, you know, and that changed the whole outlook for reggae. And of course, a lot of other reggae artists adopted what he was doing, went the same way, and that changed, you know, one of the faces of reggae in a big way.
And for you, Matt, did you have sort of an awareness and a love of Bob Marley growing up?
Yeah, again, he was just someone who was always on my radio, and I don't know, like, I think with Bob Marley, what I've always loved about him is he's not just a performer and a singer and a writer, but he's a preacher as well, and his lyrics and words just really kind of, you know, they carry over into your everyday life. You remember hearing something, you know. I don't know if it's one of his. I don't know if he coined the phrase, but you know, when a colour of a man's skin is of no more significance than the colour of his eyes, things like that. Yeah. You know, such powerful lyrics that he brings to the world. Yeah, there's no comparison. He's the king of reggae.
Until the philosophy which old one race, the African continent, will not know.
Until the colour of a man's skin is of no more significance than the colour of his eyes. The beautiful lyrics Matt referenced from the 1976 Bob Marley track, War. Robin, let's talk about when UB40 started to get a bit of attention from the mainstream, when we were getting a bit of traction. Who were your sort of contemporaries at that point? You know, who was sort of right there with you, just about to get mainstream radio play, just to, you know, maybe starting to get invited onto Top of the Pops, things like that? Who else was in your sort of sphere at that point?
Well, I suppose that obviously the whole punk thing was going on at the same time. But for us, the most similar thing to us, and the people that we knew quite well because we'd done concerts with them, etc., with the Two-Town Gang, you know. Right. The Specials, the Beat Selector, all those people, Madness, you know, we knew all of those guys, and they kind of exploded onto the scene about a year before we did, I think. We were playing gigs with them the previous couple of years. The Beat of Birmingham band, so we knew them well, and they'd opened for us several times, and all of a sudden they had a couple of hits with Two-Tone, and then we were opening for them, you know. It turned around, and I remember Dave Wakeling saying to me, "Don't worry, it'll reverse again."
Hands Off, She's Mine. That's the Beats, charting a good month ahead of their mates UB40 in early 1980. And we'll be back to continue our great conversation with Robin Campbell and Matt Doyle of UB40 next. Welcome back to the evening show with Jackie Brambles, the home of great conversations with living legends. And this week, in the run-up to Rewind South, every night we are chatting to one of the artists that you can see perform there this weekend in Henley-on-Thames. Tonight, we're chatting to UB40 OG founder Robin Campbell, together with their relatively new lead singer. He's been bedded in, though, for a good year now, Matt Doyle. Now, Robin, going back to the start when the band were really beginning to take off 40 odd years ago, you got an enormous leg up, so to speak, from a rather famous fan, because Chrissie Hynde was a sort of fairy godmother to UB40 in many ways, right?
Auntie Chrissie, as we call her.
How did you, how did she first hear of you? How did you first meet her? How did that begin?
We went to, we were in London doing our first sort of foray into London. We played a little mini tour of some pubs and clubs, like the Hope and Anchor and the 101 Club, places like that in London. And Chrissie came to one of them because someone had told her. I don't know who it was, but we were just at that point, we were sort of gathering fans. And I suppose there was a bit of a buzz about us. Record companies were chasing us. And someone told Chrissie that, she ought to come and have a listen. And she came to the club we were at. And she came backstage and said, "You guys are great. Do you want to come on my tour?" It was that simple. And,
wow.
We thought about it for a second and said, yeah, go on then. And, of course, in the next sort of 6 weeks, we did as many gigs as we'd done in the previous 12 months. So,
wow.
It was, like dropping us in the deep end. And we had to do it. We had to perform to massive audiences that we hadn't played to before. And it was, it worked out brilliantly. It was fantastic. She literally, that was the springboard that launched us, onto the rest of the world.
They say we're young and we don't know. Won't
And then obviously, mainstream radio play and going on Top of the Pops. Do you remember your first Top of the Pops?
Absolutely, yeah.
Is it quite vivid still?
Yeah. And
who was on it with you? Do you remember?
I can't remember any of that. I honestly can't remember who was on the first one, because we were just in a sort of a daze. We were just patting ourselves on the back, saying, "Can you believe we're here?" Because in those days, Top of the Pops was the ultimate. Once you got there,
absolutely,
you'd made it. That was it. You were playing to God knows how many millions of people on a Thursday night would be watching Top of the Pops, because it was the only program of its type. And, everybody watched it on Thursday night. So if you made it to Top of the Pops, your single was guaranteed a hearing, and probably success. So, and
everything changes overnight, doesn't it, after you've done that? So,
absolutely,
one day you can catch the bus and the next day everyone's looking at you. You're that bloke who was on the telly last night.
That's it, yeah.
And how did that go down? Did you love that? Was it fantastic to get that sort of public recognition?
No, I hated it.
Did you?
In the normal, walk of life, what you want to be is anonymous, really.
Yeah.
But... yeah, of course, it was brilliant to be, as a band member, as of the band, it was brilliant to be recognised, and it was brilliant to hear our record on the radio. The first time we heard our record on the radio, we were in a minibus travelling somewhere to a gig, and the first time we heard it, we had to stop the car and turn the radio up and all get out and dance. It was brilliant. We just couldn't believe that we were on the radio. Our new record was on the radio, and then within a very few weeks, it was number 4 in the charts. By the end of the tour with the Pretenders, we had a number 4 single in the charts. So
how amazing!
Yeah, and we immediately booked the same tour of the same venues. God knows why we had the gall to do that, but we did, and we sold it out. So
as the headline act,
yeah.
How incredible! So Matt, for you, listening to sort of those stories, what's the obviously, you know, times move on, and you know, the platforms have all changed. It's kind of fractured almost to sort of the way that people access music and television now. There's so much of it. There isn't really an equivalent, is there? But is there an equivalent moment for you, Matt, in terms of being a part of UB40? As there was for Robin, that, oh my God, I'm on top of the pops. I've watched this every night, you know, every Thursday night as a kid. Was there an equivalent moment for you when you were like, oh my God, I'm in UB40?
I think I just have those moments all the time. You know, I'll be going, but you know, I'll be doing my day-to-day things, you know, taking the dog for a walk or whatever.
Changing the baby's nappy.
Yeah. doing some gardening or whatever, and then it hits you like a steam train. I have to pinch myself all the time and remind myself that this is what I've always worked for, and that I deserve it. And you know, you feel a bit of an imposter when all of a sudden UB40 just pick you up and go, "You're our singer now."
Yeah.
You know,
I can imagine that. But again, as you say, you've got to stay UB40. You know, if they say you're ready, if they say you're good enough, I think you have to listen, right?
Yeah.
Have you got a sort of a particular full circle moment of, like, you know, performing with somebody, a hero type person, or someone you couldn't believe you're on stage with, or anything, Robin?
It's just times when you do gigs, you know, when we played, the first time we played Madison Square Garden, sold out, you know, with a #1 single in America, which was Red, Red Wine. And when we played the Albert Hall and Eric Clapton turned up to do a song with us, that was pretty,
oh my gosh,
that was pretty good. But yeah.
Did you know he was coming, or did he just wander on stage?
We knew he was coming, yeah. And he was brilliant.
If I can reach the stars.
From 1996, Change the World. That's Eric Clapton. Well, listen, before we let you go, I'm going to ask you the question we ask all our guests here, and apologies in advance. It's a tough one to ask a musician. I'm not going to ask you for your favourite song. That would be ridiculous.
Thank God for that.
And it can't be one of your own, because we'll have played a few of those already. But it's a song, it can be a favourite of the moment, or a song that you pick when you're in a particular mood. It's kind of a go-to song for comfort or inspiration, or, you know, to uplift you. What's your sort of go-to song?
Almost any Marley tune would put me in the right mood, you know. Could You Be Loved? How does that one grab you?
Yeah, that one's great. Brilliant. And for you, Matt, what are you going to pick?
It's a difficult question, because, you know, it just really depends. It depends on the day, depends on, you know, what I'm doing. But yeah, that one always kind of chills me out.
Number 5 in 1980, Could You Be Loved by Bob Marley and the Wailers, the final track chosen tonight by our guests, Robin Campbell and Matt Doyle of UB40. All the best for Rewind South this weekend, chaps, and of course your massive homecoming gig on the 27th of August in your hometown of Birmingham. And huge congratulations on your 45th anniversary.
Thank you, Jackie. As always, a pleasure.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
UB40, delightful.